IVM.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to ask everyone for a quick favor. We're running a brand survey right now and would really appreciate it if you could let us know what you think about the advertising on IVM. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and do let us know. As part of this, we'll be selecting 10 random participants and sending them some IVM swag, so do fill out those surveys.
This is Storytellers and Storysellers live on tape. You're listening to Vineet Kanabar on the IVM Podcast Network. When I started this podcast nearly 2 years ago now, I wanted to talk to people who had seen different aspects of the entertainment industry up close and talk to them about their experiences and present to you stuff that you could probably learn from and understand this really beautiful space so much better. And I'm so glad to have Shardul Pandit on the episode today to talk to us about his journey as an RJ, an actor, Bigg Boss contestant, someone who's dabbled a little bit in podcasting as well, but primarily talk about his years of experience working in entertainment. Shardul, welcome to the show. So glad to have you on.
Thank you so much, Vineet. Although I would like to tell you that as far as podcasting is concerned, I am still a virgin and probably this is my deflowering that's going to happen on IPM. So, yeah.
The first person to put it like that, and I hope you're the last as well.
Well, you introduced all the things that I did and also said Bigg Boss contestant. So it's almost like a different profession. People think like even when we get trolled, a lot of people talk to us or we go to Clubhouse, people are like, hey, you are a Bigg Boss contestant. It's like, we're a different breed or we're a different species. So you have to live it up.
Most definitely. I think it just goes to show how important that one reality show is. It's an outlier, right? There's tons of reality shows. There's been, talent reality show and there's other stuff that we see happening in India or the West. But Bigg Boss sort of has a different fascination entirely. Let's get started with that. And while I want to talk to you about being in RJ and your experience with TV and the stuff that you've done, let's start with Bigg Boss. How was that experience? How was it? Everything? Did it live up to what you'd hoped? And I want to preface that by saying your Instagram bio is Bigg Boss is my ex.
Yeah, he is.
Did it live up to the experience?
Well, he's a good ex. We don't have a toxic relationship, if you must say. Did it go exactly the way I wanted? No. Because I don't think so. Any contestant goes inside thinking that I want to be out before the finale. Mm-hmm. But I was very realistic. So when Bigg Boss happened in my life, I was probably at the sub-zero level of where you can be in life.
Right.
I had left Mumbai exactly on the 23rd of this month, a year back. I had sold probably everything that I had. I mean, from my furniture to bed to mattresses. And the day I landed in Indore, which is 24th of this month, I received a call from Radio Mirchi, first of all. And the contract and everything we were talking about. And I said yes. And in half an hour, I got a call for Bigg Boss. Right. And then both the things were like, okay, how do we manage this? Because both things can't happen at the same time. And so, when I went in, I was very realistic about the fact that I am not going to be the winner of the show. Because the winner of a show, which probably the normal people or layman wouldn't understand, is not just because that contestant is great. There's a lot that goes into a person winning the show. Right. There's PR, there's digital campaigns, there's so much that happens in today's times. Like there are people sitting on Twitter to trend you. There are people who are paying to get trended, and nobody talks about this. There are stylists who are giving you great clothes so that you look great. So I am very, very satisfied with the fact that actually it happened at the right time. Mirchi came back in my life, which is how my journey had started. And Bigg Boss happened, which gave me more recognition because I was always acting. But it's like you're one among the 1,000 people. So why should anybody care? So Bigg Boss put me on a spot that people at least now know my name and they at least know that, okay, there's this actor who exists. Because I've done a lot of things, but that's how human brain is. We only want to talk about the popular ones, or we want to talk about controversial ones. So I very well knew that, okay, this is great. And now at least my name will be in some search with Salman Khan. And that's I think, an achievement for me.
I love it. I love the clarity with which you went in there. I think it shows two things to me. One is that, hey, you knew what the impact was going to be, and B, you knew the underside or the dark side of what people are doing. And it only goes to show how important Bigg Boss is, right? Like I said at the beginning, in the whole, library of reality shows, Bigg Boss stands out. And then there are people who have their own campaigns to win a reality show. It's almost like a parallel election in that way, right? Winning Bigg Boss is that kind of a show.
It is, I think, more difficult than the two parties fighting in our country for seats, because I'll be very honest with you here. So when I signed the deal for Bigg Boss, I definitely told Mirchi that this is happening and all that. I wasn't a person who was a random actor who's going in. I knew that I am going to be representing the number one city-centric music entertainment company that there is in the country.
Right.
I'm definitely going to be that guy who is the face of one of the biggest radio and now digital and entertainment companies in the country. I could have not stooped down below a level. I mean, I had to keep that dignity intact, because there are people who are okay with everything. They probably will open up their personal life. They probably will fight for a paratha as they are fighting for life, and they probably will use the most uncouth language that you can. I couldn't do that, because I knew that the moment I'm out, my journey is only beginning. I am not ending here, and I probably will be a very powerful host, and this will reflect badly on my career henceforth. Like, for an example, if you tomorrow go to a Bigg Boss house and you're seen fighting with Rakhi Sawant, where you have stooped below all levels, probably the kind of listeners you have now will not be there. So you have to think about your business.
Right. Absolutely. Let me ask you this though. You talked about how going into Bigg Boss changed the way audiences look at you. You've got a lot more, association with Bigg Boss, and that's definitely, I'm sure, benefited your stature and profile. How does the industry look at people who go into Bigg Boss and come out? And let me ask you this, because in the West, there is this show called Hollywood Squares, right? And again, I don't mean to compare the two, but in Hollywood Squares, it says you go to Hollywood Square when your career is over or you're slowing down and you want a place to unwind or something like that, and you get a spot on Hollywood Squares, right? But Bigg Boss in India is much more potent in how it raises the profile of people. And like you said, it depends on how you come off and how you maintain your dignity in the show to maintain a quality of audience. But how does the industry generally look at folks who come out of Bigg Boss? Are you considered the next big thing? Is there a lot more expectation now attached? How does that work?
Oh, no, I'm going to be very honest here. It's the same even in our country. The two reasons why anybody would want to go to a reality show like that is, one, you're just beginning. Right. So, you want to reach out to the maximum audiences that you can. And that's the best way. Second is you're down and out. Your career is over as we speak, and you need a new leash of life in your career. And that's exactly actually the selection criteria for a contestant to go inside the house.
Right.
Because if you see the history of Bigg Boss, there are only two kinds of people. People who are extremely big, whom the channel and the show really badly wants because the audiences would love to, get a peek into their real life. On the other hand, are people who have had to revive their career. And even this year, it was not just me who was in that spot. I was definitely down and out, and I have no shame. I've said this in probably every interview that I have given, because I don't ever believe that I want to give anybody a false idea of who I am or what I did. Because, when this happened, interestingly, a lot was happening in the country, and I was in a zone where there was only one option for me: to just hang on to hope, or probably to go away. Because I still remember it was 14th of June when Sushant had passed away. And that's exactly the day I was packing my bags to go back to my city. And when you hear all those news, there is a dark side which is calling you to just do that to yourself, because you can't fight it. Because I was going through, and I've opened up to it in many interviews, that I was going through financial crisis. I was going through my mother dealing with cancer at that time. I had no savings left, because when I used to work in Dubai, Mirchi again, I used to make a lot of money, but that got spent. And with lockdown, my checks were stuck. So I was literally at a position where I could have, I don't want to say it, but I could have ended myself. And this is exactly when this show happened. So yes, then there is another actor called Ejaz Khan in the show, who has been a great actor, and I have grown up watching him. But he was exactly at that stage where he needed the show to put him back on, the map, that, okay, there is somebody called Ejaz Khan. So yes, it's true even for India that only two kind of people go to a show like that, who are right now looking at fame so that they can start their careers, or probably who've been there and they want a new leash of life.
That's great that you call it out and you talk about it so clearly. I think it's super important that such situations get talked about as well. Of course, Bigg Boss being Bigg Boss and its own ecosystem and its own sort of importance. But I want to take you back a little bit from Bigg Boss and ask you something, because it really seems like you're someone who's taken entertainment and a career in entertainment very seriously for a very long time. Was this something that you always wanted since as far back as you remember, to be part of entertainment on the stage or on the mic or on TV? Is this something that was very early on in your childhood, something that was very clear to you?
No, I mean, early on in my childhood, I used to think that I probably will become a doctor. And some of them also said that they can get me passed. So, sorry, moving away from that. So there were, I also wanted to be an architect, but then I realized, oh shit, I need to probably be good at maths, which is not something I was ever good at. But no, since I became conscious and aware of myself post my teenage years, I was very sure that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. But the family that I come from, it was not cool to, want to say that I want to go into this. They would probably discourage me. So I used to come up with weird things like I want to go and study advertising, because I thought if I study advertising, I'll go to Mumbai and I probably will, get into an entertainment industry. And then I would tell my father, I want to go to HR college in Mumbai and do my MA PRM and all that. Then I would call up, and I actually used to call all these deans, and I had no shame. I would just find their number. And I called once this NID, National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. I called him like 11:30 in the night. I said, I am a very good painter. MF Hussain has given me an award. Why didn't you take me? and I still remember he was like aghast. He's like, who's this person who's calling me 11:30 in the night? But eventually what happened is, that's very interesting. So, when they say that if something's meant...
But wait, did he take you or not?
I did get the scholarship.
Wow, wonderful.
My family didn't let me go because they're like jhola ladka.
Right.
So yeah. But that's what I'm saying, that, when something's meant for you, it will find you. And it will, like you might be anywhere. And my career is an example. Like I've left country also. So I was sitting in Indore. I started doing this local television show, which is called Tambola.
Right.
Which is basically, I used to be an anchor, play this game with people. And then I started doing the 8 p.m. news or 10 p.m. news and this and that. And then Mirchi was launching its private FMs in the country for the first ever time. And they were scouting for talent, and Indore was their first station.
Right.
And I still remember there's this co-host of mine who was going there for the audition. And I said, well, I'm not doing radio, I'm definitely not doing radio. Who wants to do radio? Who wants to do Vivid Bharati? She's like, no, this is different. This is cool. I said, okay. She convinced me to go. I went there. They had these many rounds for us where they tested our GQ, IQ, EQ, QQ, pata nahi kya kya. So when I finally got the job, they called me for the meeting and they said that, this is your salary and we want to hire you. And I seriously, sometimes I feel extremely embarrassed of what I've done. I mean, Richie's been very sweet to me, but the kind of meetings I've had, if probably LinkedIn should have my videos as this thing, that this is not what you should do in a corporate interview.
Right.
Because I used to ace it, as to how to embarrass people.
Right.
I went there, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. I'm studying for MBA. I will get a job, which will probably be 7 times this amount. And I'm sorry, I'm leaving. And I left.
Wow.
I refused and I left. And they're telling me, this is the Times of India. I said, so what?
But that takes balls to do right up front. Like, listen, this is too little. Main nahi kar rahi.
Oh, well, I also did give a Titanic a rendition in my interview. So
wow.
I'm capable of doing these crazy things. So then they again called me. And at that time, I was like, Achha, theek hai, I will study. You will have to adjust. All right.
Right.
And they said, okay, fine. And I started then. And then it just, oh my God. I mean, there are this core group of radio hosts who launched Radio Mirchi in India for the first time. We are still in touch. You cannot see that kind of fame ever. I mean, I'm being very, very honest here that even Big Boss cannot give me that kind of fame because I used to get bag full of handwritten letters. I used to go for events and, वहाँ barricades टूट जाते थे, security की हालत खराब हो जाती थी. That kind of admiration. I have had couples on my show who were blind and I got them married. That kind of I made a Limca record for the first time in our country for 19 hours non-stop hosting. It happened with Mirchi. So the kind of crazy creative energy that place had, because all of us were like some 19-year-old kids who were just thrown into a place and said that do whatever you want. We used to do theatrics on radio. We used to do, like, now radio is formatted. Now it's very different, but at that time it was, I would just go and plug a watchman on the show and probably talk to him about his journey. What probably now, Humans of Mumbai or Humans of New York do that. But we've done all that. And that was great. And that led to another thing. And I got into a reality show called Zee India Cine Stars Ki Khoj, which is exactly where the acting journey started.
Wow, man. And I mean, I had no idea. And now I'm getting more of an idea about how Indore has had such a formative role to play in India's radio history. I had Mantra on this episode a few weeks ago talking about it as well. I think he's from the Indore batch of Mirchi as well. There should be like, I think I'll do another episode on how Indore and its importance in India's radio history. It definitely sounds like an interesting place. But back to you.
Oh, not just that. I probably will give you an idea that Indore has a very big role to play in the television industry as well, because one of the biggest names in television fiction comes from Indore.
Who's that?
Divyanka Tripathi, Ankita Lokhande, so many more.
Right, of course. I'm from Nagpur, by the way. Pretty close to Indore that way.
Are.
Shardul, before I ask you my next question, I'm going to take a quick break, otherwise my producer will kill me. Back after these messages on Storytellers and Storysellers with RJ Shardul.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Would like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Cred, Siet, and Global Victoria. Thank you so much for making this possible. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by the hilarious and extremely charming illusionist and therapist Suhani Shah. They talk about different aspects of magic like sleight of hand, mind reading, mentalism, and more. The Habit Coach completed 500 episodes, 500, and Ashton has a special message for us on the occasion. Do check that out. We had Lekhini Desai, founder of the India Ethnic Company, talk to Varun Digarala about their story and the Hatke marketing idea that made them popular. On Naan Curry, Sadaf and Archit celebrated World Chocolate Day. They took us through the origins, history, economics of chocolate, and shared their memories. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshu Chaturvedi shares an interesting story from Leh. Check out an updated version of the Traveling Professor's Diary. It's now rechristened as Smarter with Sid. Same old brain filled with news stories and insights. This time, listening to know why you should keep things simple. And finally, check out Global Victoria Tech Talks. This one is in partnership with Global Victoria, the trade arm of the Government of Victoria and Australia. The edtech and gaming industries are booming in Victoria, Australia, and this series is meant to showcase that. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
And we're back on Storytellers and Storysellers. We're talking to RJ Shardul about being an RJ in the beginning of private radio in India and his journey into acting from there. Shardul, what I want to ask you is about being an RJ, right? And now you mentioned it was a completely different time at that time. Radio is now a lot more formulaic. It's a lot more format. And sometimes it seems like being an RJ is like a thankless, really easy job, right? But there's so much potential that it offers. You like you said, you were a 19, 20-year-old with a mic in front of you, thousands and millions of people listening to you at a time when radio was having a revolution there, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about what goes into being an awesome RJ? What did you love about the job and what parts were the toughest or the hardest to pull off for you when you were starting out with it?
Writing emails. I think that is... that is definitely, I mean, if anybody at Mirchi will listen to this podcast, they'll be like, yeah, we agree. He definitely doesn't like to write emails. That's probably the only thing I don't enjoy about radio, but that happens in acting also. But the beauty is that when you were mentioning millions of people, it's not the radio. Why radio is different is because radio is essentially a city-centric medium.
Right.
Like look at Mirchi, we probably have 63 cities in India covered, but we definitely have their own local RJs giving that local flavor. So if I am in Mumbai, there were definitely many other radio stations who had spoken to me to join them.
Mm-hmm.
But this local flavor, a lot of radio stations have actually tried, putting actors on radio stations, and that doesn't work.
Right.
Because you definitely need to have done radio to understand radio. Because unlike television, you cannot just bring a good-looking guy or a great voice on radio and make them connect with people. Because the biggest misconception that people have with radio is that, oh, zara radio ki awaaz mein bol ke batana. There is no radio ki awaaz.
Right.
There is, it's like saying that, oh, you're good looking, you're pretty, you're hot, you should be an actor. Well, we have a lot of pretty actors who definitely don't know how to act.
Right.
Similarly with radio, it's a medium which is about personalities. It's about takes, it's about opinions, it's about all of that. And the reason why I agree with Mirchi is because when I was coming back, I did have this fear that, oh, my acting career is going to take a backseat. Which is the beauty with at least Mirchi here, because Mirchi has grown into an entertainment company where we are giving a 360 degrees approach. I'm doing videos for them. I'm doing radio for them. I might very soon be doing podcasts. So it doesn't limit me as an artist. And that doesn't happen a lot in India. In the West, it does. However, there's a lot of difference between radio in our country and radio abroad, because I've also been a radio host in Dubai, in an entire UAE for 3 years. It's a different game altogether there. And it's a different game altogether here. So what I do enjoy about all these mediums is when I've dabbled, I've dubbed for movies where I've probably been the voices of a lot of people in Hindi, which is kind of funny. So these mediums give me a better understanding of how to mix and bring all of them together. Like for an example now, for every creator, whether you're a radio host or you're just an influencer or you are an actor, your digital presence is very, very important. So it's very important. But what people don't understand is that the beauty now is that you have platforms that might not serve every artist.
Right.
But having the kind of training that I've had, honestly, I would definitely like to say this, that my entire journey in television, in dubbing, in radio went so smooth because I still remember the first year of me being in Mirchi. We used to invest in training almost 10 hours a day.
Right.
Whether it was script writing, whether it was mixing sound, whether it was voicing, how to hold the mic, or probably there were these trainers who would come from Australia, US, and probably tell us that, how you should think about a radio show. That helped me so much in acting, because I would just take my script and I'm standing in front of Ronit Roy and all these, big people, and I'm doing my first scene, and I could just brush through the script and just perform, because it was years of radio behind me. So radio definitely gives you an amazing, amazing advantage. Like there's this show that I used to host called Box Cricket League.
Right.
So that comes on MTV, and earlier it used to come on Colors. I've done 3 seasons of it. And trust me, I tell everybody that if you want to ask me which is my favorite project, it's that, because I had to mix radio and TV together. There was no script. There were live matches happening from 9 in the morning till 3 in the night, and 200 actors a day. And I had to create content. So, and I had to think about TV, but my voice was also there.
Right.
It was only because I have done radio that I could host something like that, because there was no script, there was no teleprompter.
Right. I think what's very interesting that you talk about Box Cricket League, because one of the anchors there was Sumit Vyas for the first season, right?
Yes.
And he's like a completely different background, right? He's like theater and serious acting and cinema and stuff, and paired with you, who's got a very different background. It's a very interesting mix of people on Box Cricket League, and I used to love that show. Like I said, I'm a reality TV junkie that way. But coming back to this, you talked about something very briefly, and I'd like you to sort of expand on that a little bit. Was how's the radio experience different in India versus what you saw in Dubai? I mean, culturally or commercially, how was it different? Can you give us, like, compare your notes for those?
Of course. First of all, there's a lot of tax-free money that I love. I think anybody would love. But, the kind of respect that is given to radio hosts abroad is totally different than what it is in our country. Because, what happens in a place like Dubai or, any Gulf country or even Australia, I'm not sure about Australia, but I've heard things about US, is that people are really listening.
Right.
They are not just tuning in for the songs, they are listening. I have had experiences where I have had Indians and Pakistanis tuning in at the same time where I am giving cricket updates about a match between India and Pakistan. How crazy can it go? I mean, for the first time, I'm in a country where I am being consumed by both the countries, and the passion is crazy at that time. Radio abroad is more glamorous as compared to radio in India. Radio hosts there are not just supposed to be radio hosts. The requirement is that you need to be a certain kind of a, looker, or, you need to know how to carry yourself, because the amount of events that you're supposed to go to or host are much higher in number. I probably have hosted some 7 or 8 Rahat Fateh Ali Khan concerts with an audience of 60,000 people. Sunidhi, Sonu, Atif Aslam, Abida Parveen, Shreya Ghoshal, Arjit Singh. So, that was very glamorous. It was very, very glamorous. In India, because there are so many radio stations. In India, the problem, not the problem, but I would say how radio is consumed is different, because people have a lot of entertainers to look up to.
Right.
In radio abroad, it's like you might be a great actor, but if there is another radio host, they are two different entities. In India, we want to club all of them together. Then there are rankings that, okay, you are a film actor, okay, you are a television actor, okay, you are a radio host. So, like, for an example, there are so many print companies who have approached me for articles and this and that. And I have told them, I've given a very honest interview that, listen, I was going through the worst phase in my life, and that's when Mirchi happened. And they're like, but can we edit out Mirchi? I'm like, why? Because they're like, probably you can just name a television show, because the audiences don't want to know about a radio show. I'm like, I'm sorry. And I really hope I can change that, because there's this perception that, अच्छा आप radio host हो तो आप उतने बड़े celebrity नहीं हो, जो fair enough, I get it, because, radio till now was not seen. And I think that was my clear brief to everybody at Mirchi when I was joining them, that post I come out of Bigg Boss, let's change this. Let's, make people look at radio a little more glamorous way than, because when I was there, it used to happen. I have seen a crowd of 70,000 waving and waiting for me, and probably giving me a bigger applause than Ronit Roy and Shweta Tiwari, who were standing with me and who were probably one of the biggest television stars at that time.
Right.
So I definitely want to come to that stage and age, but I am not the only one who can do it. Like, probably if you speak to any host, they all miss that, that's not happening, because now we have so many things. And especially in cities like Mumbai and Delhi, people are so busy with hopping mediums that now nobody is enough for them.
Right.
You probably will be watching a YouTube video of Carrie Minati and switch over to a reel of Faizu, and you probably will then watch something on Amazon and watch a comedy show, and then you probably will watch a Netflix film, and then probably you'll be listening to a podcast, and then while you're driving, you're listening to a radio show.
Right.
So it's become crazy because there's so much of content.
I think it's very interesting that you put it this way, with the backdrop of how much training actually went into turning you into a good RJ and giving you all of these resources. And And I really admire Mirchi that way, right? Because I've seen Mirchi go from just the radio channel or the largest network of radio channels to now pivoting to video, right? The kind of work that the teams are doing there. And I had Ganesh on to talk about it a couple of months ago, actually. And it's phenomenal, the kind of work that's happening there, right? But I want to point this out, which is a lot of the content that gets watched now, or a lot of the formats that get watched now have existed before, either on a radio show or on a talk show somewhere. And there's a lot of repurposing formats and fitting it down for a completely digital audience that these guys are doing. In this pivot, in this large scheme of things, how do you think RJs are doing when it comes to adapting or upskilling? Do you think a lot of RJs have managed to make that switch, or is that something that's still happening? And I'll qualify that for just a little, right? For example, Rohini does her live chats pretty much regularly, right? I've seen you do your funny reels or joke reels, and there's a lot of effort that's happening. But by and large, what's your assessment of this? Are RJs making the switch to digital well?
No, a lot of RJs haven't been able to make the switch, and a lot of them are still struggling, and a lot of them are lost. And yes, there are some people who have adapted it to the change very well. Like there's Naved, who has brought the same concept that he used to do on radio onto digital, and it's doing great for him. So he definitely found a niche for himself. There are a couple of other jocks from other radio stations whom I admire for doing that. But a lot of jocks have, some have lost their way, some have left radio, some have taken up television completely. A lot of them have. Some have started something of their own. So, I always used to say this, that when I used to have meetings with radio, like I've switched from radio to television long back. And that's why when anybody says you're an actor, I'm like, but I'm a radio host also. And someone says you're an RJ Shardul, I'm like, I'm not just RJ Shardul. I try to tell them that because I have done years of work in all the mediums, and I definitely want to be called an artist and not just one thing. Because, I've always dabbled. It's not like I'm not going to do TV now. Mm-hmm. And the great part is that Mirchi is very, very understanding of the fact now that, I can't limit my radio host to just these four walls because the times are changing. If tomorrow, for an example, I had already signed the contract for Mirchi when Bigg Boss happened, and they could have easily asked me not to go there. And I would have had to take that up because I need a stable income. But they understood that if I go in the show and I become a little more famous, it's actually great for the brand. When even we did my launch right now, which is called the Shana Shardul Show, we did something which has never been attempted in radio, is that I was live on digital and on radio for straight 14 hours.
Oh, wow.
With some 30 celebrities popping in either on Insta Live or to the studios or both.
Right.
And I loved, because I was like, okay, let's if I'm launching my show, I want to give taste of what I'd like to do to the people. Unfortunately, lockdown ke baad hum itna nahi kar paye, but at that time, I had 30 celebrities inside a radio station on live, and the traction that we got on all the mediums was crazy.
Right.
We have Paps covering it. So radio still has a lot of potential. Like there's this huge discussion that's happening that probably podcasts will kill it or this or that. Because, you have to also understand that what happened to radio after a few years is that there's also a fault of a lot of radio stations because they wanted cheap talent.
Mm-hmm.
So when you want a cheap talent, you only invest in, acha theek hai, awaaz achhi hai na, theek hai, isko le lete hain. But then you didn't know that 3 years down the line, the industry will change and that voice will have to show its face.
Right.
And then just sounding good will not be enough. So that's the only problem that probably radio had. And also, I think it's a very big problem for a lot of people who say that I am not comfortable. I understand that as an artist, you have the chance or the right to say I'm not comfortable, but then you probably are relevant or you're not relevant. That's the fact.
Right.
Radio is evolving, digital is evolving, so many things are evolving. There are so many actors who hated TikTok. I was one of them. Actually going to Bigg Boss house and not becoming a finalist, and I would say, yeah, I failed there. I learned a lot.
Right.
Now, when I make any kind of content, I am not making it for myself. I am only making it for the audience.
Right.
Because I've realized that if I'm saying something stupid and it gets the laugh, why not? rather than, I've done videos about women empowerment, about all that thing that I believe in. Trust me, nobody wants to watch it. They'd rather want me or Pavitra Punia or me or Naina dancing to, ye to badtameez ho gaya. So,
Right.
but you can't be bitter about it. You have to understand that that's what the audiences want.
And what the audiences want, they must have.
Yeah, it's a business at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I want to ask you this, Shardul, and I love the way you said it's not just RJ Shardul, right? It's an artist who does so many different interesting things, right? And with Mirchi now, with Bigg Boss behind you, there's a new lease of life, like you said, to what you want to achieve, right? I want to ask you very specifically about podcasts. I think your status as an RJ, your time as an actor qualifies you uniquely to use the experience from both these mediums onto podcasts, right? And in the current day and age, there's a trend of having non-hosts or non-podcasters or non-anchors come in and host podcasts and shows with celebrities or a talk show with celebrities. How do you feel about that trend, right? And I'm talking specifically like with Kareena Kapoor doing one, Neha Dhupia doing one. Do you think there is in your scheme of things, there is a big scope of doing like that kind of a podcast with a podcasting company? Or are you going to say be a much more, bigger part of how Mirchi is looking at podcasts and going forward with that vision? Just want to get your take on this.
So first of all, I'd like to say that I am very ignorant about the podcast industry. And I'm going to be very honest here. Mm-hmm. I would love to do it with a Limca record behind my back. I probably qualify for it. But I want to do podcasting when I feel it's right. Sure. And why I say that is what happens to a lot of people is that whenever a new app or avenue or a platform comes, everybody jumps onto it. When TikTok happened, everybody was a TikToker. Then it became Reels. Then it became, everybody's now a YouTuber. Everybody I know is a YouTuber. Probably after a few months, everybody will be a Clubhouse celebrity also, which is already happening. But with podcasts, my thing is, the kind of podcast I would probably want to do, I'm not sure as to how to put them together and give it out. So for an example, Mirchi is easy for me because it is a platform. All I have to do is give them my talent. I don't have to get into the nitty-gritties of what is going to be the sound, how do I get my team, how do I get the platform. That's the only reason I probably haven't gotten into it. And there's another reason to it is that I don't want to have too much on my plate and not be able to be great at anything that I do. Right. Why I say that is, of course, I know that Mirchi is going to go into podcasts. Of course, there have been discussions about me doing them too. And of course, I showed interest, but I have not taken it up yet ahead because before Bigg Boss, I went through a phase where I was completely down and out. My entire focus was, will I actually be able to make it for the next month? Will I actually be alive for the next 1 year? Because there was depression. I was going through severe depression. There was substance abuse. There was so much that was happening at that time. When Mirchi and Bigg Boss happened, it was actually a new life for me. I'm just getting stable, and now is when I have started doing things that I used to do and I love doing. Like for an example, 2 days back, I was dubbing for a film which is going to release on Netflix soon where I play the lead. Mm-hmm. So these are the kind of things I used to do. And I genuinely, sincerely, Vineet, I sincerely want the country to look at us differently. I want to be able to host events. I want to dub for films. I want to do my radio show and I want to act on TV too. Mm-hmm. And that's a very big battle because trust me, as open as people are in the entertainment industry, at the end of the day, it becomes about owning the talent. It becomes about contract. It becomes about binding. So I am actually trying to fight a lot of things, and podcast is something that if someone helps me set up, I would love to. Doing this with you was easy because I am doing just the talking part. I don't have to worry about अच्छा इसका sound quality कैसा है, recording कैसा है, इसको कहाँ डालना है. That's not my concern. So I'm probably being lazy, but right now I think only this much I can deliver at the same time because Due to lockdown, there's a restriction on shooting and all. I was supposed to do a show which couldn't happen. Now, if that happens, it's going to be a TV show. If that happens and I'm doing my radio, I will not have time to probably eat. So, yeah. So podcasting, as much as I love, because, all these people that you mentioned, Mantra has gotten into podcasting majorly. And I've spoken to him and I've spoken to other friends of mine like Sudarshan, who's doing podcasts and all. And I definitely love the medium. I definitely want to dabble into it. But right now, I think I'm just going slow because I want to do a lot.
That sounds absolutely reasonable, actually. And big ups to you, Shardul, for your journey back from whatever difficult place you found yourself in to being here and back on your feet and the future looking strong and great. I'm going to wish you all the best. Before I let you go, Shardul, thank you first of all for a wonderful conversation. I always love having people who've spent time on radio because they're the ones who can articulate their thoughts in the best ways possible and make it sound like they just thought of it as well. So always great to have you. Let me ask you this before I let you go. There's a small segment we do called Water with Vineet.
Okay.
It's a small rapid fire sort of a segment. I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 questions. I want your quick answers on that. First question coming at you is, name your top 3 favorite RJs in India.
My top 3 favorite RJs in India. Oh God. Wow. Why would you ask me that? Okay. Okay, so there's this RJ called RJ Charu, who used to be in Chandigarh Mirchi. Before that, she was in Indore. Right. I think one of the most, most flawed but most liberated radio host I've ever seen because, she's just herself. And I love those kind of radio hosts because she's not making a radio voice, right, how most people do. Right. So she's one. I used to love Pallavi. She was again an RJ with Mirchi. Unfortunately, she's no more. This year we lost her. I used to love her voice and the kind of soothing quality that she had. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't have a third.
That's all right. I'm going to ask you my second question on Water with Vineet, which is tell us your favorite celebrity interview that you've done.
Has to be Shah Rukh Khan.
Love it.
I think anybody who has ever interviewed anybody would say it's Shah Rukh Khan, because I still remember I met him. I was at Mirchi and I was with Sajid Khan. Right. And we were doing work on his film Happy. I don't remember the Akshay Kumar movie. Mm-hmm. So I was giving him a script. I was like, you have to say this, you have to say that. And Sajid Khan is like getting annoyed. And suddenly I get a call from my boss saying that you have to rush to Film City. Shah Rukh Khan interview jisko lene bheja tha, usse nahi mil raha hai, now rush. I rushed. And he was shooting for Happy New Year. Right. So I went outside his van. First of all, I saw Deepika Padukone and I was like, I started stammering. I was like, hello. How baby?
As is natural.
Want to have water with Vineet. So aise wali halat ho gayi thi meri. And then I met Shah Rukh and I said, I need your interview. And he's like, I have given 20 interviews. I said, but I'm from Times of India. Right. He's like, yeah, so what? So I was like, no, I want it. It's my job. And he's like, he realized that this is a 24-year-old guy. He's bullying me. Let's sit in my car. Right. I sat in his car, Vineet, and I'm telling you, from Film City to his house, I think I had the best time because here I was sitting with a guy who I wanted to be. I've looked up, and he's giving me tips, and he's asking me my age, and he's giving me a kiss on my forehead, and all the girls were like, "Don't take a shower." So I think him. Yeah. And then I met him in Dubai where I did a scene in Happy New Year and he found out. Right. And he comes to me and he kisses again my forehead and he's like, thank you for making my cast look good. I'm like, ye aadmi kitna jhoot bol raha hai, par kitna pyara jhoot bol raha hai. Love so it. Yeah, him.
Absolutely love it. I'm a big Shah Rukh fan and I love a good Shah Rukh story. So Thank you for sharing that one. My last question to you is sort of like an advice question. What would you say are 2 or 3 things that anybody who's creating now, in your experience, you've learned 2 or 3 principles that anybody who's creating now should keep in mind? 3 notes from you.
I would say the first rule would be that please don't have rules. Because I honestly believe in it. Like, I feel sometimes I am not doing a great job because I look at so many people who are creating such crazy content and it is flying. Mm-hmm. It is flying. Like, who would have thought that Carrie Minati would be the #1 YouTuber who probably is just roasting people because we are brought up in a country where we are not supposed to be rude. Right. But look, he went ahead with his gut and he's created a brilliant franchise for himself. Right. Who would have thought that a Faizu would just dance to songs and probably would be earning that than what we have earned all our lives. So please don't have rules because Anybody who's giving you rules is probably limiting your talent. Please do not listen to your teachers. Do not listen to that boss. Do not listen to that person who thinks he knows, because nobody knows. The way media is changing, nobody knows what can fly and what cannot fly. I mean, there are no rules. You can talk about sex and be popular. You can talk about bitcoins and be popular. There are no rules. That's number one. And number two is, please don't think that this is it.
Right.
You've arrived.
Right.
Because audiences are getting, I would say, very disloyal these days, that they are not happy.
Choice.
Yeah, they are not happy with one person, one medium, one kind of format, and they'll move on very soon.
Right.
I mean, in the past 5 years, I've seen comedians who were sensations and now nobody wants them. So yeah, this is not it. You'll always have to probably reinvent yourself.
Brilliant. Those are just wonderful rules, even though the first one is have no rules. Shardul, I'm compelled to ask you one last question, which is, what drives you now? Now that you've done this, you're back in the game, what drives you for the future?
Why did you have to keep that question in the...
It just came so naturally. I thought I would feel incomplete without asking you this.
And probably that's why I don't have a pat reply to it, because are we supposed to be honest on your podcast?
Always.
Well, I don't know then, because right now I think this the reality of all our lives was this lockdown, this pandemic, this crazy energy that we have around us. There were times where it wasn't driving me, where I was going crazy, where I was driving myself crazy, that why am I not able to create anything? Mm-hmm. Why am I not able to do anything great? Like, there were days where I couldn't even get up and make a stupid reel. And that's the time I realized that it's all right.
Right.
You know, it's all right. The kind of pressure that everybody else will put onto you, because at the end of the day, all of us, all of us, I'm including you, all of us who call ourselves talent are not just talents. We are basically a paycheck for someone else and for ourselves. So they will drive you to, probably just do stuff. But I don't like that. I have never liked doing stuff just because I have to do stuff. Like, I don't understand this thing then, ki acha aapko clubhouse pe bhi hona padega. I came there, but if I'm not enjoying it, I'm not going to be there.
Right.
I am an actor, but if I'm not enjoying taking up a project, I will not, because right now I have Mirchi going for me and I have that stability. Mm-hmm. If I am not feeling the vibe on a particular day on my radio show, I make it a point to say that I'm not interested in talking today. Tum gana sun lo. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only legacy I want to have when I die, is that I was honest to my craft. Right. I don't care about numbers, because I have been at a place where I didn't have numbers. I have been at a place where I have numbers. I have been at a place where I have crazy fan following, and then nothing. Right. So I know it's all transient. Right. The only thing that you probably will enjoy is you doing it. Like, all the things that I have done have stayed with me because I did it for the love of it. And honestly, it sounds a bit cliche, but that's the truth.
No, I love it. I mean, cliches are cliches because they're the truth. And I love the way you put it, right? If you're not feeling the vibe, you're not going to do it. And given that you've been there, seen it, and come back, it's just a wonderfully honest way of putting it. I hope you felt the vibe on this interview.
Oh, I did. I think I've enjoyed a conversation after a really long time, because, that's one problem with this pandemic, is I posted about it also, that we stopped talking to each other. We're just listening. We are listening to a podcaster. We're listening to someone on Clubhouse, but we're not talking. And I being from the industry, I love talking. So thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me such a good time.
Glad to hear it. Glad to have you, Shardul Pandit. Thank you so much for being on Storytellers and Storysellers. That's it from me, Vineet Kanabar, on this episode. I hope you all had fun listening to Shardul. This is me, Vineet Kanabar, saying goodbye.
Feeling overwhelmed, anxious, struggling with too many obstacles, don't know where your life is headed? Well, if you are dealing with one or all of these, tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast, because in each episode, I share a life lesson, a life hack, a pro tip that can help you get your life back on track. All episodes are available on the IBM website, IBM Podcast app, or wherever it is that you get your podcast from.
पेश खिदमत है आपकी शान में हमारे अंजुमन से Hi, I am Sadaf.
And I'm Arshit. खाने का इतिहास, इकोनॉमिक्स, पॉलिसी, साइकोलॉजी सब है मेन्यू पे.
Only on the Nankali podcast every Wednesday सिर्फ IVM podcast ऐप या वेबसाइट पर या फिर जहां से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो.